Hi everyone. Thank you so much for joining me again on Knitting with Matt. And this is episode 3 of our 5-week series. This video is brought to you by the Department of Cultural Affairs of Los Angeles, located here at the Lincoln Heights Arts Youth Center. Now, let's get started. For today's class, we're going to go ahead and need one ball of yarn, anything above 60 yards. This is 60% acrylic, 40% wool. This is by Premier. It is called So Woolly. Best size estimated for this particular yarn is in Super Bulky 6. You are also going to need a pair of knitting needles in size US 13. You will also need your trusty sewing needle. And finally, you will also need your pair of scissors. All right, let's go ahead and get started, everyone. I am only casting on 12 stitches for this swatch, and I will be knitting it as a 1x1 rib stitch. Now, if you need some help to do a 1x1 rib stitch, because it requires you to know how to knit and purl, I would suggest you go to the previous week's video, as I do a breakdown of how to do a knit and a purl. Something new that we will be learning in this class will be how to do an infinite loop. An infinite loop. That's how you actually get this beautiful, nice little, kind of like a braid, right? Yeah. All right, so I'm gonna be working up this swatch. Okay, so I went ahead and I knitted a nice little swatch. Doesn't need to be too big, you just need to know how it's going to work up. This is 12 stitches at about 5 rows. And I actually like the way that this looks. It's a little too small, obviously, for a headband. But if you look, it's about halfway through. So I'm assuming I'm going to do actually 20 stitches instead of 24. I think 24 is going to be too many. So I'm going to go with 20. And I'm going to go ahead and start working on this. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to want to do is cast on 26 stitches for our headband. You are then going to want to do repeatedly for the entirety of this project. You will only be doing a 1x1 rib. Pretty easy, pretty simple. The hard part is when we get to the weaving portion, so I'll see you at that part. All right, this is me starting the 1x1 rib. I'm going to go ahead and just use this first row to remind people how to do that. So if you're going to knit, you're going to insert from the front to the back. Then you're going to yarn over, you're going to slide that needle from the back to the front, and then you're going to slide that stitch off. You're going to yarn over, then you're going to now do it the opposite way. You are now going to start from the back to the front, yarn over, slide that needle from the front to the back, slide that stitch right off. Make sure you yarn over before you do the next knit stitch. And you're just going to keep repeating this pattern until the very end. Okay, we're going to be doing this for about 30 rows, I believe. So I will see you at the end. All right, here we go. to go ahead and do is do a cast off, and make sure that when you're doing a cast off on a 1x1 rib that you are still knitting the knits and purling the purls. So for a good example, I'm going to knit the knit, yarn over, purl, and then yarn over. But now what you're going to do is you're going to slip that first stitch over that second stitch to do one cast off. Again, you're going to knit the knit, pull that second stitch over the first one, yarn over, purl, yarn over, and go ahead and slide that first stitch over that second one, and you have done another cast off. Knit the knit, slide that first stitch over that second one, yarn over, purl, yarn over. Why I end up doing a yarn over when I'm doing a purl side is because that yarn is actually getting in the way. And here I'll show you now that I've gotten to another purl stitch. You're going to yarn over, go ahead and purl that stitch like normal. See, now you have the yarn in the front. It kind of gets in the way while you're trying to pull that first stitch over that second one. So I always just pull that yarn over, just like a normal yarn over, and that way it just gets out of your way, and there you go. So go ahead and do another knit, knit the knits, purl the purls. I'm going to keep repeating it because sometimes people will forget, just like I do. Okay, yarn over, go ahead and purl that purl stitch, yarn over to get that string out of your way, first stitch over the second stitch, yarn over for this knit stitch, first stitch over that second one, and just keep repeating that till the very end of the row. Okay, and remember to always pull that yarn over when you're doing a purl side so that way the yarn doesn't get in your way. Whoops. Okay, so knit the knit sides and purl the purls. So now we're on a purl side. Remember, you're going to go ahead and purl it like normal, but after you've done purling, make sure you yarn over just to get that string out of the way when you are trying to do a proper cast off. We get into the end here, and I'm gonna just keep doing this in normal time with you all, so that way if you would like to cast off with me, you're more than welcome to. If it's, you know, something that you're not so familiar doing, it's always good to have somebody with you. I'm doing that along with you. And just a reminder to knit your knits and purl your purls. And remember, if you can't tell the difference between which one is your knit side and what is your purl side, just be sure to take a look at the actual pattern. The previous video that I did release, I went over this of how to properly tell what your knits and what your purls are. In this one, you could pretty much tell, since you're in the 1x1 rib pattern, any V's are the knits, any bumpy bumps are the purls, which thus knits and purls. Alright, so I'm going to knit this knit side, going to do this cast off, yarn over for purl, purl that purl, yarn over before you do this cast off, there you go, and go ahead and knit the knit side, yarn over, whoops, don't yarn over before you do that cast off, that was my bad, yarn over, purl, yarn over, or cast off, here we go, cast off, and the last one, you're going to yarn over just like normal, purl this just like normal, yarn over just like normal, and now go ahead and pull that last stitch over the first one. It's always the toughest for some odd reason. Don't know why, but it is. There we go. Okay, and now that we have done that, I'm just going to go ahead and pull the string on through. And there you have it. You have your full entirety of your headband. Now Alright, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do this next step. What you're going to need is your trusting trusty handy dandy sewing needle for your weaving, and this will actually end up helping you create the shape of your actual headband. So what you're going to do, and this is pretty simple, to create that infinity loop, okay, the infinity loop, you're going to want to grab each end of your headband and kind of create like these two V's. Now what you're going to do is you're going to sandwich them together. Okay, let me show that again. You're going to basically sandwich them together. So now you have this shape. Okay. Now, how I normally do this is I try to make it so that one of the end pieces, where the strings are at, you're going to want those on the outer part, okay, not the inner part. So just make sure you adjust correctly to make sure that they're where they need to be. And there is a reason for this. The reason why we're doing that is so that way, and as you can tell, I'm lining them all up from edge to edge as best as possible before I do this next step, so that way it comes out nice and even. I'm a big person about it coming out even, so, and that's just me personally. Again, I know you're all just learning, so if, you know, it comes out not perfect, that's okay. None of them come out perfect. So here we go. So now what I'm going to go ahead and do, now that I've properly situated these into the perfect sandwich, I'm going to hold all of this together as even as possible. Okay, and as you can tell, I'm kind of lifting the edges up a little bit so that way when I finally do weave, they're all together. All right, so the next thing that you're going to want to do is go ahead and attach the string to the actual needle. Here, let me go ahead and do it this way so you all can see. There we go. So thread it through your needle. Once you have done this, grab all of your work as carefully as possible in this sandwich after you've already situated it. Again, I'm pulling up those edges so that they show a little better for me when I'm actually doing it. And I'm going to remove all this little fuzzy fuzz so you all can see it a little better, because of the wool, it's causing it to be a little too fuzzy for you to see. But here we go. All right, so this is one edge. All I'm going to do is, since this is already on the edge, you don't have to go back through it. What I normally do is I just put it in through this first section here, and I'm trying to grab every little edge as best as possible all the way across. And that's all you're going to do. You're just going to slide that all the way across. Okay, pull that string on through. You've done one side. Holding it all together, flip it to the other side, and now do the same thing. Just make sure, again, you're going through that first stitch on this first one. I'm going through that second stitch, excuse me, on that second piece, third piece, and now fourth piece. You're going to go all the way across. Just make sure you get every stitch on each panel, or else it's not going to properly close. Make sure you tug that a little tightly, not too tight. You don't want it to be crazy too tight. All right, so now we're going to do the next stitch. Here I go. It's the third stitch. Third stitch. I'm hoping that my camera is catching all this. Third stitch and third stitch. And now that you've gotten it all the way across, go ahead and pull that string on through. Again, you're going to just keep doing this pattern. Go ahead and flip it over. Again, I'm going to be pulling these edges up so that I can see them properly while I'm doing it. You don't want it to be that you're on the wrong stitching, because then it's going to come out a little uneven at the end, and you don't want that. So now I'm in this fourth stitch. I'm going across. Again, pulling that nice and tug, not too tight, just needs to be nice and tug, okay? I don't want it to be that you pull it too tight and then you can't do anything later. Okay, going into this next stitch again, remember pulling up each panel from the back so that way you can properly see them when you're pulling them through. Okay, again, pulling this straight on through. All right, flipping it around again. You're gonna go ahead and do this, just keep doing this all the way across. Remembering that you are making sure to see every single stitch on each panel. There you go. pulling it on through, giving that a nice little tight pull tug. I see that this edge is pulling down now. Do you see that? It's kind of in that hole. I'm just going to go ahead and pull that on out so I can again see those stitches. You want to be able to see all of them at all times. And then I'm just going to keep going across, and across, and across. Boom. Pull that string on through. Good job. Okay, we're going to flip that whole work again. And it gets easier to flip the whole work without having to worry about it falling apart as you get closer to the end, because everything's nice and tug already. So again, just make sure you're going through that first stitch. See, I almost went through that lower row, and we don't want that. We want to stay as close to the top as possible so that you get every nice little edging on there. This little tail we will end up weaving into the actual work to make sure it doesn't fall apart. And then that's pretty much it. So here we go. I'm getting to the end here. It looks like I only need about 1 or 2 more stitches. So now that I've gotten all the way across, you're going to see, because this is actually what we call the wrong side of the work, since this will end up being on the inside of the headband. Yeah, I'm going to need to do one more after this. Boom, and now here comes the very last one. And the last one's actually kind of important to make sure that you don't end up getting this open end here. And that goes for both sides, so just make sure that you're getting it, again, all the way across. This will end up closing your entire work completely, which is what you want. So now that I've officially done that, there you go. You have gotten your nice headband seam going for you. Good job, everybody. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to pass this through to this side so that I can weave this in on this side. So just again, remember, we're going to do that fun little trick that I taught you. You're just going to keep doing this motion over and over. So let's go ahead and make sure you insert your needle in through the proper way, because if you're not, then it won't. This technique will function. If it feels wrong or weird, you're probably doing it wrong. So, all right, here we go. So now that I've gotten it in through a few stitches, I'm going to pull that string on through just like normal weaving. This is just me weaving in the end now. Now all I'm going to do is go ahead and cut this as close to the edge as possible. There goes one tail, done. Now we're going to do this last tail, and your project will be fully finished. Awesome. All right, so remember, if you're working with wool, the best thing for you to do is just trim off that edging so that you get a nice clean cut. So when you insert it into your weaving needle, it's not causing you issues like it's causing me now. Let's try that one more time. Sometimes what I do is I wet my fingertips with some water or saliva just to get that edging nice and straight. There we go. So now that I have this nice and in, I'm going to go ahead and just now weave in on the other end, because we weaved on this side. And as you can tell, look, that's nicely cinched up. So we're going to go ahead and just finish this now. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to weave in these ends so that they are nice and tucked away and people can't see them. And it's going to keep our work nice and tight and together where it wouldn't fall apart even if you stretched it out to its full entirety. So now that I've woven that in, I'm going to cut that off, and that's it. And I know it looks ugly right now, but do not worry, because this is actually the wrong side. All you're going to do is now you're going to flip it inside out, and now you could take a look at your glorious work. You can see the beautiful headband that you have created. And I'm so sorry, I'm trying to make sure I adjust this properly so you can see the actual design. Look at that. And just like that, you've created your very first headband. Congratulations. Alrighty, everybody. Well, that's it for this week. Thank you so much for joining me again on this episode of Knitting with Matt. Next week's video, I'm going to teach you how to do a beanie and how to properly do knitting in a round. That is where you have a set of needles but with a wire on the end. So if you're looking into wanting to create beanies, I will look forward to seeing you all next week in this virtual class. Thank you all so much again for joining me for Knitting with Matt. I will see you all next week. Bye.